Kadosh Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Avodah Zarah Daf Amud Aleph 8a1 says the Gemara. We were talking about that as follows. You remember we were talking about how do you know that a person should always be misadesh shivchosh and afterwards to pray? We learned it from Moshe Rabbeinu. Yoshua Savar Yafilu Moshe. How do we know that you learn from Moshe Rabbeinu? Eliezer Savar Lo Yafilu Moshe. We're not going to learn it from Moshe Rabbeinu. Shane Moshe Derav Guvre, because Moshe Rabbeinu is different in the fact that he is going to be different than other people because he had a lot of koach, and therefore for him he could start with the shevach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to afterwards to continue. Chachamim omrim. Chachamim come and they say, Lo b'divrei zeh, right? Velo k'divrei zeh. We're not going to do not like this and not like that. Yeah, what does that mean? We're not going to do not like this and not like this. Ela shoel adam tzrachav v'shomea tefillah. We're going to ask, right, the tzrachim and shomea tefillah. Chet. Yeah. So he says we're going to ask for the tzrachim during shomea tefillah, which means chachamim they hold like Nachum Hamadi, and they were mitkaven to say that we're not going to be posek like Nachum Hamadi, but rather like the chachamim, which they hold like him. Okay, very good. Says the Gemara. Okay, this is actually in brackets where it says, fine. Next. Amar Rav Yehuda bereid Rav Shmuel bar Shilat mishmeh de Rav. Says Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shmuel bar Shilat, in the name of Rav. Even though they said that you could come and you could ask for your necessities during Shomea Tefillah, aval, if a person is going to come, right, and he's going to say, besof kol bracha ubracha me'en kol bracha ubracha, omer. You're allowed to say whatever you want, me'en kol bracha at the end. So, for example, right, ata chonen ladam dat, or let's say ashivenu avinu torotecha. So, towards the end of the bracha, there is a tefillah to pray for chazara b'tshuva. If you look in the, for example, Patach Eliyahu, or if you look in all these sidurim, many times you'll come and you'll see there's a special prayer to come and to pray, which is me'en kol bracha ubracha. Okay, so Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav. And even though we said, you could say it during Rifayenu. So you have the same thing, by the way. If you take Rifayenu Avinu, right? Rifayenu, in the middle, there's a special tefillah just for that. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Says Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, even though they came and they said, if you want to say after the tefillah, towards the end of the tefillah, if you want to say over there, you could be ma'arich mamash like kippur. You're allowed to. You could say whatever you want. You could ask for whatever you want at the end. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Yeah? 1 minute afterwards. Questions after, right? So what does that mean? That means that a person right now is able to come after, right? Which means towards the end of the tefillah, which is Yula Ratzon. During the Yula Ratzon, a person is able to come and they're able to ask for whatever they want. They could be Marich, even like Kippur. And once they're going to be Marich like Kippur, there's no problem whatsoever. Okay? Fine. Mishnah on Chet Amud Aleph says the Mishnah, Ve'elu edehen shel ovdei kochavim. This is going to be the Chagim of the Ovdei Kochavim. Remember that the first Mishnah was speaking about that you're not allowed to do business with the Kochavim, of the Kochavim, 3 days before his Chag. The second Shita, or 2 days in the day of the Chag. Kol hakavod. Yeah. Then we said the next Mishnah, right? The next Mishnah was, right, going to be that you're not allowed to do it afterwards or not. So that was a machloket. We hold like Chachamim that you're allowed to do it afterwards, but the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer was you're not allowed to do it afterwards as well. This Mishnah is going to tell us what are the Chagim of the Kochavim. So says the Gemara of the Mishnah, Ve'elu edehen shel ovdei Kochavim. These are the Chagim of the Ovdei Kochavim. Number 1, Kalenda, right? Number 2, Starnura. Number 3, Kratisim, right? And then it says Yom Genusia shel Malchehem, right? So obviously the Gemara is going to explain, right, what are these 3 Chagim. Okay, the Gemara is going to continue with, the Mishnah is going to continue with Yom Gerusei Shel Melachim, which again the Gemara is going to explain, Yom HaLeida, whether it's going to be also Yom HaLeida of the Melachim, right? So Yom HaMitah, or also when it's going to be the day of death, Divrei Rabbi Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Okay, so you're going to have, these are the chagim. Chachamim argue, and they say, Kol mita sheyesh ba srefa, yesh ba uvdei kochavim. Shem ba srefa, em ba uvdei kochavim. Meaning, anytime that you have a king where there's srefa, which means that they're going to come and they're going to burn all of his belongings, right? So therefore, that's avodah kochavim, right? So he says, and therefore you're not allowed to do the business with them. But any mita that they don't burn his belongings, there's no avodah kochavim there. Aval yom tiglachat zekano blorito, right? But when they're going to come, they're going to do a miklachat. Here we're talking about the tiglachat, which is basically they're going to come and they're going to start shaving, right? So he says whether it's going to be the zekan or the blorit of the akum, the yom shalabo mina yam, or he came out of the sea, right? That he's going to start bringing korbanot. The yom shiatzam bet asurin, or when he came out of the bet asurin, the oved kochavim shasam yishte libno, or he comes and he makes a big party for his child, right? Eno asur eloto yom. It's only going to be that day only, not 3 days before or afterwards, right? Veoto haish bilvad, and only it's going to be asur with that person, not with anybody else. Meaning, if the goy is going to come and he's going to do certain things, it could be that it's asur to do business with him, because he's got ki'ilu the day for him for Avodah Zarah, not for anybody else. It's not. It doesn't become a public holiday, obviously. Okay, and again, obviously, the Gemara is going to explain right one by one. So let's start. Amar Rav Chanan bar Rava, says Rav Chanan bar Rava, kalenda. So we already learned this, if you remember. We said kalenda is going to be shmona yamim achar tkufa. It's going to be 8 days after the tkufa, right? So therefore, we know that there's going to be tkufa of the chorif, right? The season. So I'll give you an example. We know that shishim yomach after the tkufa is going to be barech alenu. So that's why we always start barech alenu, usually December 4th or December 5th. Yes, we're talking about in chutzad, it's always. Yeah, so therefore December 4th or December 5th. Here we're talking about that there's going to be the tkufat choref. So therefore 8 days ritzuf after the tkufav tevet, which is basically the shortest days in the year. So that's when it's going to be kalenda. Okay, starnura is going to be shmona yamim before the tkufa. So obviously there's a question, what is it straight? Because you've got 8 days and then 8 days. So then obviously we have to find out how does that work exactly. The simanach, what is a siman? In order to remember which chag is before the tkufat choref and which one is afterwards, we already learned this as well. Achor vakedem sartani. What does that mean? Achor vakedem is sartani, right? So he comes and he says, right, we already learned this siman above, where he says over here, the pasuk says achor before the word kedem. So therefore, that's why it's coming and it's going to say the chag which is coming afterwards, right? And then the one which is coming before. So therefore, kalenda is after achor. Kalenda is after tkufat tevet. Vakedem is the one before it. So that's tarnura. So that's how you remember it. Okay, achor vakedem. First you do the one which is later and then the one which is earlier. So in the Mishnah, what did it say first? Kalenda. So kalenda is achor. What is achor? Acharei tkufa. Right? And kedem is the one before the tkufa. What is the one before the tkufa? Starnura. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbana, we learned in a Braita, the fish Adam Rishon, since Adam Rishon came and he saw the first choref in the world, Yom Shemitmaet Veolech, that he comes and he sees that the world, right, is becoming day in, day out, shorter and shorter. What's going on? Amari said, Oili. Says, whoa, what's going on? Shema bishvili shesarachti olam chashuch ba'adi. Maybe it's because, right, because of my sins, that I came and I made the world all dark. V'chozel tohu and it's going to go back to tohu. Because basically he kept on saying that it was pochet ve'olech. Right? He comes and he sees that today there's only going to be 10 hours in the day. Right? Because that's usually in choref, it could go down to 10 hours. Right? It goes shorter and shorter and shorter. Right? And it continues going. So I would have thought to say, listen, it continues going shorter. So he says, V'zohi amita sheniknesa la min hashamayim. And therefore this is going to be the mita, right? That it was niknesa min hashamayim. Amad v'yashav shmona yamim b'ta'anit u'v'tfilah. So he came, what did he do? He started doing 8 days of ta'anit. Ta'anit and tfilah for 8 days. Okay? This is, 1 second. So he comes and he says, right? Kevan sharat kufat tevet, v'rash marich ve'olech. But then all of a sudden what happens is he sees in kufat tevet, that's the exact opposite. Now all of a sudden it starts getting longer. So now he's nirga. V'amar minago shel olamu. He said, okay, so this is normal. Halach ve'asa shmona yamim tovim. So he went and he did 8 days of Yamim Tovim leodot laHashem. The Shana Acheret, the next year, Asa'an la'elu, right? Vila'elu. So then he made these 8 days of Tkufat Choref, and the 8 days after the Tkufat Choref, right? Yamim Tovim. Hu kiva'am l'shem shamayim, vehem kiva'am l'shem avoda kochavim. So Adam and Ishon put this power in the world, l'shem shamayim. But, right, the Goyim came and they did it for avoda kochavim. Okay, which is something incredible. Meaning he went, Adam and Ishon, he did l'shem shamayim. He was thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu because when he comes and he starts doing the Taniyot, and all of a sudden he finished the Tanit, right? There's a whole question why 8 days, this and that, but fine. But what happens is that he went and he does 8 days of Taniyot. All of a sudden he comes and he says, hey, 1 second, it's becoming long again. So he comes and says, okay, so it's normal then. If it's normal, I'm going to make a Yom Tov. Why Baruch Hashem? It wasn't because of me. I didn't destroy the world. I didn't, that's it. So then he makes 8 days of Yomim Tovim. So therefore you had the before the Tkufa and acharei atkufa, right? Lifnei atkufa ve'acharei atkufa. So that's why he comes and he said he did it l'shem shamayim, but the goyim they did it for avodah kochavim. So says the Gemara. One second. How does this make sense? This makes sense. If you're going to tell me that Tishri nivra olam, so then it makes sense. So yom ezute chaza, yom aricha kati lo chaza, because he only saw short days. He didn't see long days. Meaning like this. Tishri. What is Tishri, by the way?
September.
Which one? So what is that exactly? Long days or short days? Tishri.
The end of the long.
תשרי כאילו, חודש תשרי? זה סמרי, זה מתחיל כבר להתקצר.
It's still long.
Tishri?
תשרי מתחיל להתקצר. Now we're finishing at 9 o'clock. תשרי.
So I'm going to teach you guys something. In Nisan and Tishri, it's an equinox. I'm teaching you English as well, not only just science. What is an equinox, right? An equinox is as follows. An equinox is when it's the day is equal amount of day and night. Yeah? So therefore, when you have in Tishri and Nisan, it's equal. Yeah, it's equal. Then what happens is that it starts the winter Zman. So once it starts the winter, so then after Tishri, that's when it starts becoming a shorter day. So when I ask you in Tishri, is it the longer days or shorter days? It was a trick question. It's half, right? I'm trying to make you use your brains once in a while, right? So therefore, what happens is Tishri, and Nisan. Okay, so then it becomes shorter right after Tishri. And then after Nisan, it becomes longer. Yeah, fine. So what happens is that he comes and he says like this. He says, if you're going to tell me that the world was created in Tishri, that means when was the world really created? Not Adam Rishon. The world was created on? No, you're already in the answer. If you say that the world was created in Tishri, what day was the world itself created?
There's a specific day, I forgot, no.
איזה יום הוא נוצר? יום שישי?
No, לא הוא. העולם.
יום בריאת העולם אתה מדבר.
If you're going to tell me that Tishri nivra olam, it means that on Kafei Be'elul, the world was created. And that he was created on the same day of the Rosh Hashanah, right? Because he was not created the first day of the week. Adam and Ishon.
Yeah? was born in the last day.
Exactly. So he says, if you're going to tell Bishlam Tishri nivra olam, then it makes sense. Because then Yom Ezute Chaza, he only saw the short days. Remember, after Rosh Hashanah, now he's only going to go into short days. He's not going to get long days.
It's right after Rosh Hashanah?
Well, after Rosh Hashanah, you have Tevet. You have the winter. You don't have the summer yet. He was born. He never saw summer. He doesn't know what summer is. So he doesn't know what long days are. He only knows short days. Equal days. Equal, not long. Not long. Equal. Equinox. Equal. Shaveh yom v'layla. Shaveh oto zman shel yom v'layla. So he comes and he says, Yom ezut echada, Yom aricha ki kati lo chaza. Ela laman damar. If you're going to tell me Nisan nivra olam, if you're going to tell me that it was on Nisan, so what day was the world created? The 25th of Adar. Remember, it's either 25th of Adar or 25th of Elul. Okay, and then you say it's going to be Nisan or Tishri. So he comes and he says, Ela laman damar Nisan nivra olam. If you're going to tell me the Nisan nivra olam, Hachazi lama, right? So then he did come and he did say, right? He says, right? He already saw then arukim and ktsarim, right? By the time it came down to it, because if he was born in Nisan, right? Meaning that if he was created in Nisan, he saw the long days, and then by the time it comes down to Tevet, he already saw long and he saw short. So says the Gemara, he says he didn't see so short days. Meaning, even if he saw that days became shorter, because one more time, if he was born in Nisan, meaning if he was created in Nisan, so then you have Nisan, he sees all the kites. Kites is very, very long days. But now, even if it starts becoming shorter and shorter and shorter until, by the time Tishri, but he never saw such short days until Tevet. So that's why he actually came and he saw these days. Once he saw it with such short days, that's when he comes and he said his thing. So even if he was created, during the time of Nisan, you could still say it's the same halacha, right? That he didn't see such short days. Meaning, even if he did see the long days and he saw short days, he didn't see such short days, just like the time of Tevet. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. Yom Shenivrabo, right? The day that he was created, Adam Rishon. Kevan Sheshaka Alav Chama. Once you have Shkiyata Chama, right? Amar, he said, Oili. Shebishvil Shesarachti Haolam Chashuch Ba'adi. Because of me, the world became dark. Remember that Adam Rishon was created. Now you start the day. Remember that there were many different hours, right? The Midrash actually, and if you remember, we went over through the Midrash and in the Seder Olam and everything that we went through, right? In Seder Adorot, every hour, what happened, right? When did he, and there was a Gemara also that we learned this already, about every single hour, which hour did he sin, which hour did he do this, which hour did he do that, and then according to that, we were able to find out what happened every single hour. Now it comes nighttime, and when it becomes nighttime, right, they have a tradition, right? And when it becomes nighttime, what happens is that all of a sudden he comes and he says, wow, he didn't see nighttime yet. So he sees night and he says, listen, the entire world became choshech only because of my sin. I sinned, the entire world became choshech on the first day. Yeah? V'yachzor ha'olam le'tohu v'vohu. So it's going to become tohu v'vohu. V'zoi mita sheniknesa alai min hashamayim. So this is the death. Meaning, he was told that he's going to die. Now, he doesn't know what death is. So therefore, if he doesn't know what death is, what's going to happen? So therefore, he comes and he sees, imagine, a guy is born. Right? And imagine, they're not babies. So it's not that, he sees night and day. So he's born, he's 100% there. He's a mamash like yeah. And all of a sudden, he comes and he sees it becoming nighttime. He's going to think, oh, Shalom, why are you going to destroy the world? What's going on? He's mamash the first night, yeah? Which was Shabbat. Yeah, he's mamash boche kol halayla. V'chava bocha kenegdo, and Chava is also. Kevan shalam Avodah Shachar. Once all of a sudden there's a Avodah Shachar. Amar, he said, you know what? 1 second. Minhago shel olam, this is minhag shel olam. Amad v'ikriv, so he comes and he brings, right, a shor shekarnav kormin leparsotav. He brought a shor which was created through Hashem b'sheshet yemei bereshit. Yeah, he says when the shvarim are going to be born, their parsotehem are already muchanot, but the karnehem they only do it much later. Meaning the horns only grow afterwards, not the right. So he comes and he says. So he says, however, though, all the bidiyot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created during Maaseh Bereshit, right, were already 100% adults. It was already 100% there. So he actually brought one of these, right? Now, why Dafka Shor Rishon? Because he wanted to come and he wanted to bring, right, a korban which is domet to him. So he comes and he says, Shnemar, v'titav la Hashem mishor par makrim mafris. This is a perek of Tehillim, right, in Samechet. Okay? So it says, Ahalla Hashem Elokim b'shir, v'agadalenu b'todah. So he comes and he says, this is the famous song, Allah Hashem Elokim, right?
That's in Dvarim, no?
No. There's a Tehillim, Samechet. V'agadalenu b'todah, Yud v'hei v'vav v'hei. It's a famous song, right? There's a pasuk in Tehillim, right? So the Tehillim Samechet. So he comes and he says like this. The pasuk says makrin, and then afterwards mafris, right? First usually comes a parsotav. Then afterwards comes karnotav. Here first came makrin and then mafris. So therefore you see that Adam Rishon came and he brought a korban, right? So remember, he brought a korban. Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Rav Yehuda comes and he brings in the name of Shemuel. He comes and he says as follows. Yeah? He says, Shor sheikriv Adam Rishon, keren achat hayta lo mitzcho. I think it's called a unicorn in English. Right? What does that mean? He says that the korban, the shor that Adam Rishon brought, only had one keren, one horn, and it came from his metzach, from his forehead, which is the unicorn. Yeah. Shneimar v'titav l'Hashem mishor par makrin mafris. So says the Gemara, makrin tarte mashma. So 1 second, when it says makrin, it's mashma shtekarenayin, right? So therefore, what are you talking about then? You're telling me now it's only one. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, makrin ktiv. It's written makrin without the yod. So therefore, since it's written without the yod, it's not plural, it's a keren. So therefore, it only means that there was one. Okay, so by Rav Matana comes and he asks the following question. Romi shasta kalenda. When Roni came and they made this chag, which is called kalenda. V'chol ha'ayarot, in all the different cities, esmuchot la, mishtabdot la. Right, they come and mamash, they have to do, right? They don't do kalenda, but they come and they have to give kalenda everything that they do. What's the din of otan ayarot? Are you going to tell me that it's asurot or mutarot? So, kacha. Yesh lecha ayarot that they don't actually chag. They're not chogeg the chag of kalenda, but they come and they bring to the Romans. They come and they actually, the Romans are the ones that they do this.
Provide services.
Which, right, and they provide services for them. So are you allowed to do business with those cities or not? So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, kalenda surah la kolhi. All the abnei arayot which are meshubdot to Romi are asurim masal matan. Rabbi Yochanan says, en asura el lovdei bilvad. It's only asur to the ones which serve this kalenda. Meaning if you serve this Avodah Zarah, then it's prohibited for you. But if you do not serve this Avodah Zarah, it's not going to be prohibited. Okay, fine. So Tanya Kavatet Rabbi Yochanan, we want to bring a proof to Rabbi Yochanan. What is the proof to Rabbi Yochanan? Afal pi shamru, even though they come and they said, Romi asta kalenda, Romi did kalenda, v'chol ayarot smuchot la, and all the ayarot which are close to it, mishtabdot la, hi atzma, which means the entire yisur of doing business with kalenda, it's only for the ones that actually serve it. So this is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan that it's only to the ones that serve it, not to other cities. But even though they do providing and this and that, it's only the ones that serve it. So if they serve the Avodah Zarah, asur. If they don't serve the Avodah Zarah, mutar. Right? Next, Sralnalia, Ukratisim, Yom Genusia shel Malchehem, Yom Shumlach bo Melech, Lefanav vela asur, Lacharav mutar. The days beforehand are going to be asur. The days afterwards are going to be mutar. But Oved Kochavim shasa mishte livno, and we're talking about the Oved Kochavim that he does a mishte, a wedding for a son, and asur loto yom ve'oto aish. It's only going to be the same day and the same person, nobody else. Okay? So now we're going to go back and we're going to bring another proof to Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Ravashi, says Ravashi, Afananami Tanina, we also learned it. What do we learn? דקטני יום תגלחת זקנו ובלוריתו, ויום שעלה בו מן הים, יום שיצא מבית האסורים, right? In all these cases, אין אסור לאותו יום בלבד, ואותו האיש. It's only going to be for that person, right? And that day, not any other day. Meaning if they come and they make a chag, right? You have a guy that he comes and makes a chag. Why? He got out of prison, right? Or he did, and a lot of times, yeah, 100%. So, yeah. So he comes and he says, so therefore, in such a case, it's only going to be asur that day, not before and afterwards, and it's only going to be asur that person, meaning you're not allowed to do business with that human being, with that person, but not with anybody else. So bishma oto hayom, I understand when it says oto hayom, it's lapuke lefanav lacharaf, because when it says oto hayom, right, it's davka that day. Obviously, the days before and the days afterwards, hakol mutar, right? But if you're going to say oto haish, what's it coming lapuke? Lapuke mai. Lav lapuke meshubadav. Doesn't that come lapuke that the ones which are meshubadim, that there's no isur? Shema mina, so therefore we could be midayek from here. That really, be'emet, you're allowed to do masau matan with the people which are meshubadim. So this is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says that the only ones which are asur to do business are the ones that actually serve the kalenda. But if you do not serve the kalenda and you're only meshuabad to Romi to give them the provisions, it's going to be mutar. So this is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says it's going to be mutar. Okay, so this is actually a proof to him. Now he says, Tanya, we also learned in a Braita. Shimon ben Lazar says, Israel right? שבחוץ לארץ. When you talk about Yisrael, which is in חוץ לארץ. ועובדי כוכבים בטהרה. And they're living by the goyim. Now, the עובדי כוכבים, right? מתוך כוונה טהורה, right? הן, right? even without כוונה לעשות. And that means they're coming, they want to be משתתף with the שמחה והעקום בהיתר. Now, they don't realize that they're actually doing something, which is Avodah Zarah. כיצד? עובד כוכבים שעשה משתה לבנו, וזימן את היהודים שבעירו. So imagine, the goy comes, and he's going to do a wedding. So now he invites all the Jews in his city. So now, even though they're going to come, they're going to bring their own food. Imagine, he's providing kosher food. So he calls up food art, and he tells them, I want you to bring kosher food. Yeah, to the Jews. So he says, and they have their own shamash also, that means their own waiters. So it's mamash, different waiters. It's ki'ilu that they came and they ate mizivche metim from the korbanot of Avodah Zarah. Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk that we're talking about that you're not allowed to make a brit with the shivat amim akrani beretz Yisrael. Pentichro brit liyoshev va'aretz yizenu achrei v'zevchu lehem v'kara lecha ve'achalta mizivcho ve'lakachta mibenotav levanecha v'zeru mibenotav acharei Elohehen v'yiznu et banecha acharei Elohehen. So therefore, you're not allowed to. Yes. So he comes and he says ve'ema ad da'achin. So maybe I'm going to say, okay, fine. Maybe it's actually when you're actually eating from the korban of the Avodah Zarah. So Amar Rava comes and he says, if so, Neimaka, the pasuk says, V'achalta mizivcho, that you're going to eat from his zevach. He says, Mai v'kara lecha. What does it mean from v'kara lecha? So he says, Mishat kriya. From the time that he calls you, right? From the time that he's mazminotcha, that he calls you, you're already over. Hilkach, and therefore, Kol tzlatin yomin, all the 30 days after the chatuna, ben Elmaleh, whether he told him mechamat ha'ilula because of the wedding or whether he didn't tell him, asur, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to go to eat, right? Because we could say it's chagiga chatuna beno, and therefore it's going to be prohibited, right? Because during that chatuna they used to come and they used to bring korbanot to their gods. Mikam ve'elach, from then onwards, after 30 days, Elmaleh mechamat hilula asur. If he told him we're in Chet Amud Bet, yeah. If he told him right after the hilula, if he told him it's because of the wedding, it's going to be asur. And if he didn't tell him because of the wedding, it's going to be mutar. There's the Gemara. We're in Chet Amud Bet. By the way, in the art scrolls, the way that it works, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, the chule. In the art scrolls, on the top, you have A1, A2, if it's in English, correct? Okay, fine. No, just making sure. So you guys know if somebody wants to know how it is. לא שמת לב? בגלל זה, יש לך עכשיו חטא עמוד number 1. זאת אומרת, 1. חטא 1, 2, 3. או 4, לפעמים זה 4, או לפעמים אפילו 5. זאת אומרת שתלוי לפי הזה, אז אתה יודע איפה אתה. Fine. says the Gemara, וכי אמר להם מחמת הילולה אדמת. What happens now if he comes and he tells them, I want you to come because of the wedding of my son. Until when? What, even a year later? Like how much later? Again, one more time. For the 30 days, right? We said it's mistama still for the wedding of his son. But what happens if it's afterwards? Until when? So if he tells them mechamat hilula, remember hilula is the wedding. Okay, so he says ademat, until when? So Rav Papa says that 12 months. For one entire year, mamash, he's a chatan, right? Chatan and kala, right? So the chatan for 1 year. For 1 year, it's going to be considered, right, that he could still bring korbanot and everything because of the wedding of his son. After that, no. Okay, fine. When is the start date? Right? Meaning before. Right? So he comes and he says, Amar of Papa, Mishmed Rava, Michiramu Saareba Sinte. He says from the time that they put the seorim, the barley, in order to make the beer. Meaning when they used to start preparing for the Seudah. Nowadays also, we don't even understand this because nowadays you get a caterer. And the caterer probably prepares 1 or 2 days in advance, right? In the olden days, right? And maybe, no? Sometimes probably, longer than that, Mehmet? What, 3, 4 days? Okay, fine. So, right, so he comes and he says, what happens here, it could be from the time that they start preparing the wedding, which is they start soaking the barley in order to make the beer. Right? Beer was made out of barley. So therefore, when they start soaking the barley to make the beer, from that time onwards, you're not allowed to go to his house. Meaning, even though it could be a month before the wedding. I don't know how long, whatever time it takes. Right? The achanot of the Suda. Yes. 100%. The beginning. Okay? Fine. So now he comes and he says, right? Like this. Okay, ulbatar trei sariyal cheshata shari. So he says, are you going to tell me now that after the 12 months it's going to be permitted? By the way, these halachot were very, very similar to the exact same thing of shasimcha bimono and of all those things. If you look in the Masechet Ketubot, there it's brought down that when do you start preparing and start saying that that it's kilu, it's a wedding. So it's the same concept that when they're going to start putting the beer, the barley in order to make the beer, and until when can you say it? So we have the halacha nowadays that you only say it for the first 7 days. Sheva berachot v'gamarnu. Right, but really, be'emet, there's a whole thing that can you say it even until a full year or for a whole bunch of time, right? So he comes and he says like this. He says, so he came after the 12 months, right? And then what happened? Right? And he heard that the Akum was coming and was saying thank you to his God. So he left. He didn't want to eat. Meaning he went and he saw that he was thanking his God. He didn't want to eat. Yeah, he didn't want to eat from the Seudah. Right? So here it says that even though it could be that he's actually not bringing Korban, right? But the fact that he was thanking his God, right? That was already in Isur of Lo Yishamal Picha. That means I would have thought to say that it has to be a Korban. That's in footnote number 4, by the way. Right? Which means that I would have thought to say that it had to be a Korban. Even without a Korban. Just the fact that he was thanking his God, he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. Right? He comes, he hears, he's saying, I'm not there. Yeah? Fine. So he comes and he says, after it was the 12 months. And he heard that he was thanking God. He said he didn't even eat there. Now again, first of all, here we're seeing that he didn't. No, because it was after 12 months. It was after 12 months. After 12 months, we said that it was okay. Here he went after 12 months and he heard that he's doing. He heard that he's doing what he's doing. He's thanking his God, and also he's separated. So he comes and says, Shana Rav Yitzchak bered Meshashia Adam Chashuvu.
What does it mean after 12 months?
After a year.
Year of what?
Because usually after a year, it's never, you're not in the first year of marriage. Right? Even for us, we call a Chatan Mefuar. Chatan Mefuar is always the first year. First year of marriage, that's called the first year. Right? First year of marriage. Right? After that, that's it. Yeah?
You're done.
Yeah? Fine. Okay, 2 dots. Says the 2 dots. Ukratasim. Right? What is kratasim exactly? Amar Rav Yehuda Meshmuel. Says Rav Yehuda Meshmuel. Yom shetafsa bo Romi Malchut. That means the kratasim is basically the day that they took over the kingdom. Right? Yeah, exactly. Independence Day or whatever it is. It's basically going to be these days. So ask the Gemara, V'atanya kratasim v'yom shetafsa bo Romi Malchut. He says, 1 second. We learned kratasim and the day shetafsa bo Malchut. So it's mashma sheze shte dvarim shonim. It's mashma, it's 2 different things. Samar of Yosef says Yosef, shte tfisot tafsar Romi. Romi took 2 different tfisot. Achab yome Cleopatra Malketa is Cleopatra, Cleopatra the queen. Right, the first one was by Cleopatra. It says here that she was Malkat Alexandria of Mitzrayim. Okay, she was the queen of Egypt, just like it's brought down in Masechet Nida. So she got married, right, to Marcus Antonius. Yeah, and from then, right, Eretz Mitzrayim was Meshubedet to the Romans. Okay, and afterwards, right, Bekrav Aktyom. So basically, this is in the year of 31, basically. 31 BC. Before BC, not AD. Yeah, because we're right now AD, right? So he says it's BC. Okay. So he says, בשנת 31 לפני הספירה הנהוגה, right? שהיא שנת 3,729, right? הביס המצביא הרומאי, right? He says over here, Octavianus, it's Marcus Antoninus, Cleopatra והרגום, and they killed him. Right? ונעשה כל ארץ מצרים חלק ממלכות רומי. Right? So he says, Octavianus נהיה לאחר מכן, right? Then this Octavius, right? This Octavius, he became, right, the Caesar of Rome. And he was also called Augustus.
Yes, the Caesar.
Yes, Augustus.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah. ואז הרחיב את ממדי האימפריה הרומית לגודל שלא נראה כמותו לפניו ולאחריו. And he was the one that he spread the Roman Empire to things that we've never seen.
After him came Adrian, no, Adrian, no?
It could be, I don't remember the exact order,
Adrian
yes.
is the one that changed the name from Judea to Palestine.
Yeah, okay. So he comes now and he says like this. So that's why he comes and he says that there's two different tfisot, Tafsa Romi. One during Cleopatra, the queen, and one Tafsa Bimei Yevanim. Okay? Okay, so the Malkol Kol Haolam, when they won the Greeks. Fine. The Chiyat Ravdimi was when Ravdimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amar, he said, Tlatin Utrein Krave Avdu Romai Bad Yevane. There were 32 battles, right, that they did, the Romans with the Greeks. Velo Yachlulu, and they weren't able to. Adeshatin Fu Yisrael Badayo, until they got Israel with them. Right? It's incredible. Right? It says here, this brit between Israel and Romi is the Chofefet Yasuda Shel Malchut Chashmonaim. Because when Bnei Israel came and they got their independence from the Greeks, right? So he comes and he says, this is during the time of Shimon HaChashmonai, the son of Matatiah. So he comes out that he says, this is when they started. So he comes and he says like this. He says, so this was the condition between them, that when they were going to win, if we're going to be the kings, you guys are going to be then the how do you call the ones in charge, like, not managers, like generals or administrators or things like that. Yeah, if you want to call it that, I'm sure there's a better word for it. Right? But if you guys are going to be kings, so we're going to be the moshlim. Right? And they went and they sent to the Yevanim, until now we're fighting. Now we're going to do dinu dvarim. Right? Margalit ve'even tova. Right? Why? If a person has a margalit and an even tova, which is going to be the basis? The even tova or the margalit? So shalchule, they went and they said margalit is going to be the basis, even tova. So even tova ve'enach, right? He comes and he says, what happens if you have an even tova and nofech? Nofech is, okay, here it says it's a carbuncle or onyx. It's another type of an even tova. So even tova le'enach. Enach v'sever Torah, is ben yaseh b'sitzich chavero. Enach v'sever Torah. So shalchule, so the Romans came and said, "Ken anan sefer Torah gaban." We have the sefer Torah. The Israel ba'adan, and Israel is with us. So kaful lehu. So they went and they won the Yevanim. 26 shinin kamu lehu b'emunaitu by the Israel. So for 26 years, they were trustworthy to the Jews. But afterwards they went and they went against the Jews. Meaning, at the beginning, they were trustworthy to the Jews. They kept their words. Because again, they made the peace treaty with the Jews. And because of the Jews, they were able to win the Greeks. Right? So the first 26 years, right? Shema Vaya. Yeah, they were trustworthy. After that, boom, that's it. So what happened? Why is it that at the beginning, they were good, and then afterwards they changed? So Meikara Darush, at the beginning, they went and they said, Nisav and Elecha v'lecha ne'engdecha. Meaning it's mashma that on Esav and Yaakov, they have to be shavim begadlutam. Ulvasov Darush, but then afterwards they said, Yavor na Adoni lifnei avdo, which means it's mashma that Romi is a manhig, because he has to go first. Meaning they took the first pasuk in the thing that it's kilu, it's mashma that they're equal. So the Jews and the Romans, which means Esav and Yaakov, they're equal. So since they're equal, so therefore the Jews and the Romans are equal. But once afterwards they went and they saw in the pasuk, Yavor na Adoni lifnei avdo, the Yaakov Avinu comes and he tells Esav, please, you go first. So who's the leader? Esav. So therefore Romans are going to be the leaders. So Esrim Veshit, Shanin de Kamo ben Atai Badi Yisrael ben Alan. How do we know there was 26 years? It says Damar Rav Kana, but Rav Kana comes and he says, Keshechala Rabbi Shmuel ben Yosef, when Rabbi Shmuel ben Yosef was sick, Shalchule, they sent him, Rabbi, Emor lanu shnayim ushlosha dvarim shamat lanu. Tell us 2 or 3 things that you said in the name of your father. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Amar lehu, he comes and he says, 180 shana kodem shenechrav bayit, 180 years before Churban HaBayit, Vashta Malchut HaResha al Yisrael. The Malchut HaResha came against Bnei Yisrael. 80 shana ad shelo charav, Kazru Tum'a al Eretz Ha'amim. 80 years before the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, there was a Gizra of Tumat Ha'amim. What is Tumat Ha'amim? Tumat Chutz Haaretz. Val Kli Zechuchit. Or on Kli Zechuchit. Right? That it's going to become Tameh. 40 shana ad shelo charav HaBayit. 40 years before the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, Kalta Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin went out of the Lishkat Gazit. They went into exile. Yeshvu lahem b'chanut, and they were sitting in a storefront, right outside of the Bet HaMikdash, there were storefronts, right? You even have a Minarot HaKotel that you could still see that there was like storefronts, right? That's where they used to have their stores, right? In the outside of the Bet HaMikdash. So says the Gemara, Lemay Hilchata. Why is it that we have to know that Sanhedrin went out of Lishkat HaGazit? Samar Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Lomar, to tell you, Shelo Danu Dine Knasot. When the Sanhedrin were in the Lishkat HaGazit, which means in the Bet HaMikdash, they were doing all different dinim. Dine Knasot was one of them. The second that they left, they don't do Dine Knasot anymore. They don't give Knas. No Knases. Right? No penalties, no fines. So Dine Knasot Tzadka Daitach, Vamrav Yomara, Beram Zechur Oto Leish Letoven of Yudah ben Baba Shmo, Shimalehu Nishtakhu Dine Knasot Israel. Says if it wasn't for him, we would have forgotten the entire concept of Knasot. So he comes and he says, Nishtakhu, right? He says, they were going to be forgotten. Ligrasino, just learn it again. Ela batlu dine knasot Israel. If it wasn't for him, it was going to become batel. So what happens? So because of that, you see from here the be'emet that they went outside, right? They weren't able to done knasot anymore. Meaning once the Sanhedrin goes out into exile, there's no more knasot. Shegazra malchut resha gizera, because they went and they did a decree, kol somech yareg, v'chol nismach yareg. Anybody that gives over semicha, rabbinical ordinances, gets killed. And anybody that receives semicha gets killed. No, that's why the Sanhedrin went into exile. One more time. To be on the Sanhedrin, you need semicha. So therefore, because, right, you need semicha, the Romans made a decree, anybody that gives semicha, they get killed. Now remember, semicha has to be given over from rabbi to student. So therefore, if a rabbi comes and he gives semicha to a student, the rabbi gets killed, and then the student gets killed. Both get killed. The one that gives the semicha and the one that receives the semicha. Ve'ir shesomchin ba techarev. If you have a city that they gave semicha in it, they destroy the entire city. Utchum shesomchin bo ya'aker. They destroy the tchum of the city, right, which is the outskirts of the city, right? Ma'asar Rabbi Yehuda, what Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava did? Halach v'yashav ben shnei arim gedolim uben shtei ayarot gedolot ben shnei tchumei Shabbat ben usha leshafrem. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, he went between two big mountains, between two big cities, between two tchums of Shabbat, between Usha and Shifrem, v'samach shama chamisha zekenim, and he gave semicha to 5 zekenim. Yeah, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. Yeah, so he comes and Rav Avia Mosif, also Rabbi Nehemiah. Kevan shekiru b'hem oivim, Amar lahem, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava told them, Banai rutzu, run. Amru lo, they told him, Rabbi, what's going to be with you? Amar lahem, he told them, Hareri mutal lifnehem ke'even she'en la hofchin. Nothing's going to happen. Why? He accepts it with love. They're going to come, they're going to kill him. No problem. But he already went and he did the semicha. He gave over the semicha to all these students. Amru, they said, Lo zazu misham ad shena'asu legufo 300 lunkiyot shel barzel v'asau legufo kegvara. They went and they killed him such a terrible death that they made his body like a sieve. The Romans came and they killed him. Now again, he was too old to run away. So therefore, what happened was that he went and he told the students to run away. Why? He wanted the continuation of Am Yisrael. So he gave the semicha in a place where they couldn't destroy a city, they couldn't destroy a Tchum Shabbat, they couldn't destroy anybody. So he went in between mountains, in between a place where anyway, nothing's going to happen. And he gave the semicha. Now, what was the decree? That they kill him and they kill the students. So him, he didn't have a chance of running away. So he told them, run away. Because that's a continuation of Am Yisrael. But they went and they said, well, what are you going to do with you? So no, he accepts his death with love, and therefore that's exactly what happened to him. He was killed with 300, he says, 300 lunkiyot. Mamash, mamash, he was Rav Yehuda ben Baba. So he says, right, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So you see from here that Dinei Knasot was given even after Kalta Sanhedrin. Why? Because he did give them the semicha, meaning if they didn't have semicha, so therefore it makes sense, they can't be done in Dinei Knasot. But here they could. So he says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, lo tema Dinei Knasot, ela lo dinei, you're right. Dinei Knasot they did. Dinei Nefashot, meaning they couldn't kill anybody anymore. When Sanhedrin are in Lishkat HaGazit, הם יכולים להרוג. הם יכולים לבוא ולהרוג אנשים. זה דיני נפשות. Once they went into galut, they cannot kill anymore. They don't do דיני נפשות anymore. My time, what's the reasoning? כיוון דחזו דנפישי להוא רוצחין, because once the Sanhedrin saw that there were so many רוצחים, ולא יכלו למידן, they couldn't judge all of them. אמרו, they said, מוטב נגלה מן המקום למקום, it's better that we should go into exile, כי איך דלא לחייבו, in order that the רוצחים are not going to be חייב מיתה, תכתיב ועשית על פי הדבר אשר יגידו לך מן המקום ההוא, מלמד שהמקום גורם. Meaning we learn from here that the makom is going to be gorem, that only if they're going to be in a special place, that's when they're going to be able to come, and they're going to be able to, and they're going to be able to, how do you call this? To judge dineh nefashot. But if they're going to be outside, they're not going to be able to judge dineh nefashot.